We were making our way through the dense foliage when suddenly I heard it. A faint sound carried on the humid air. It was the sound of crying, soft and mournful, like the low whimpers of a lost child. As we pressed deeper into the emerald embrace of the Takaru rainforest, the sound grew more distinct, its sorrow seeping into our hearts. My companions and I, with our cameras in hand, were on a mission to document the elusive night-blooming orchids that thrived in this part of Borneo. The forest, however, had other plans for us that night. It had a story of its own to tell, one that had nothing to do with flowers. It was the third night of our expedition, 3 nights of listening to the symphony of the jungle, to the chirping crickets and the distant calls of nocturnal bullfrogs. But tonight the melody was different, discordant, haunting. The crying continued, growing louder, more insistent, and I couldn't help but feel a growing unease creep up my spine. My companions, seasoned explorers like myself, were equally perplexed. We had trekked through countless jungles, scaled mighty mountains, and braved treacherous terrains, but something about this sound unsettled us. It was primal, otherworldly, and it seemed to be coming from the very heart of the jungle's dark embrace. As the twilight deepened and the jungle noises reached a crescendo, we made camp. Professor Elm, with his weathered face and twinkling eyes, tried to lighten the mood. He was a renowned botanist, a man who found solace in the silent language of flowers. But even he seemed subdued tonight. "Let's hope it's just the wind," he said, his voice betraying his attempt at cheerfulness. But deep down we all knew it was more than the wind. This was the jungle's way of speaking, and we were all ears. I remember staring up at the canopy of stars, their distant light filtering through the thick leaves. The crying continued unabated, weaving its way into the fabric of the night. Sleep evaded me. Every rustle of leaves, every hoot of an owl sent shivers down my spine. When the moon hung heavy in the inky sky, we decided to follow the sound. Armed with headlamps, we ventured deeper into the jungle, our senses on high alert. The path was treacherous, the undergrowth thick and thorny, but our determination to unravel the mystery of the crying propelled us forward. As we pushed through the tangled vines, the sound of crying grew clearer. It was no longer a distant moan, but a palpable presence enveloping us. The jungle seemed to be weeping, sharing its grief with us. Then we heard it again, close by. We froze, our heartbeats echoing the rhythm of the crying. It sounded like a child, a small, frail voice caught in the throes of a terrible sadness. Our steps faltered. We exchanged glances, each of us contemplating the same thought. Could it be a lost child in need of help? But as we followed the sound, something felt wrong, deeply wrong. The crying seemed to lead us in circles, and the familiar rustle of leaves sounded strangely distorted. The jungle, once a comforting embrace, was now a menacing labyrinth. We stumbled upon a clearing, a stark expanse of moonlight and shadows. In the center stood a solitary tree, gnarled and ancient, its branches clawing at the sky. As we approached the tree, the crying reached a fever pitch, a cacophony of sound that seemed to emanate from the very core of the earth. It was then that we noticed the roots of the tree. They writhed across the ground like serpents, their twisted forms creating an eerie tableau. And from beneath these roots, the crying echoed, resonating with a profound sorrow that seemed to touch the very depths of our souls. We were transfixed, unable to tear our gaze away from the spectacle before us. The sight was both terrifying and mesmerizing. And as we stood there in the pale moonlight, we felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over us. Suddenly, a movement in the shadows beneath the tree caught our eye. A figure emerged, small and pale, its back hunched, shoulders shaking. It was crying, its body racked with sobs that seemed to shake the very foundations of the clearing. We watched in silence, our hearts pounding in our chests. The figure turned, revealing a face that was both horrifying and heartbreaking. Its eyes were vacant, its skin stretched taut over its bones, its limbs twisted at unnatural angles. It was emaciated, spectral, a creature of nightmares brought to life. Its head was oddly smooth, devoid of hair, as if scalded, and it rocked ceaselessly back and forth. The crying intensified, and we could see that it wasn't a child after all, but a creature that defied human comprehension. Fear, raw and primal, surged through me, urging me to flee. My legs moved on their own, carrying me away from the ghastly apparition, but my feet seemed glued to the ground, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from the creature. It continued to cry, its voice echoing in my ears long after I had fled. The nightmare of the creature's face, its vacant eyes staring into my soul, continued to haunt my waking hours. Sleep offered no escape, for in my dreams, I heard its mournful cries calling out to me in a language I couldn't understand. Each day that followed brought a fresh wave of terror as I relived the haunting memory of the crying creature. It became my sole focus, consuming my thoughts, my days filled with the desperate need to understand what I had witnessed. The question that echoed in my mind was this: am I losing my sanity, or is there something more, something sinister lurking at the edge of my perception? Days turned into weeks, and still the image of the crying creature burned vividly in my mind. It was as though a part of me was forever trapped in that clearing, condemned to witness the creature's unending sorrow. Then came the whispers. People started talking. Had I truly seen what I thought I'd seen? Was I losing my grip on reality? Or was there a darker force at play, a malevolent entity feeding on my despair? The world around me seemed to shrink, isolating me in my own personal hell. Friends and family grew distant, their concerned faces a constant reminder of the chasm that was opening within me. But I knew what I had seen. I knew that there was something out there in the darkness, something that cried in the night, waiting to be understood. I delved into ancient texts, searching for answers, hoping to find some semblance of what I'd encountered. But the deeper I went, the more I realized how little we truly understand about the world around us. The stories I found spoke of similar creatures, beings from another realm existing just beyond our perception. They told of ancient rituals designed to ward off such entities, to keep them trapped in the darkness where they belonged. Armed with this knowledge, I began to fight back. I performed the rituals, chanting the ancient words, trying to banish the creature from my mind. But it was relentless, its presence seeping into my thoughts, its cries echoing in my dreams. I didn't know how long I fought, how many days and nights I spent in this desperate struggle. Time ceased to have any meaning. All that mattered was banishing the creature back to the darkness from which it came. Then slowly, imperceptibly, things began to change. The crying in my dreams grew fainter. The specter of the creature became less vivid, its grasp on my sanity loosening its hold. I began to emerge from the darkness, blinking at the sunlight, feeling the warmth of the living world envelop me. The struggle was over, or so I thought. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across my room, I heard it again, the sound of crying. It was faint, almost a whisper, but it was unmistakable. I rushed to the window and looked out into the gathering dusk. There, silhouetted against the darkening sky, was a figure standing at the edge of my vision, its form wavering like a mirage. It raised its head and let out a piercing cry, a sound that tore through the fabric of my being. Fear, cold and paralyzing, shot through me. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my mouth to stifle a scream, but the creature was gone. When I turned to go, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face, pale and drawn, stared back at me, my eyes wide with terror. In that moment, I knew the battle wasn't over. The creature had returned, and this time it wouldn't be banished so easily. I called out for help, but my voice caught in my throat. Who would believe me? Who could comprehend the horror I was facing, trapped in my own personal hell? I struggled to keep my sanity intact, desperately clinging to the belief that I would emerge victorious. But the creature's presence was a relentless tormentor, chipping away at my resolve with each mournful cry. As the days turned into weeks, I grew gaunt, my body a mere shell of its former self, my mind teetering on the edge of oblivion. I fought tooth and nail to stay afloat, but the line between sanity and madness blurred, becoming a treacherous sea I risked drowning in. Now I find myself at a crossroads, caught in the grip of an unseen adversary. Will I succumb to the darkness or will I find the strength to prevail? Only time will tell. You see, that's what happened to me. And if you want to hear more creepy stories, stay tuned because I've got plenty more where that came from.